Before I jump into the actual product, I'm just going to take a second to walk you through an overview of the high-level demo structure and some of the key concepts that will come across in the product over the next 35 to 45 minutes. So to begin with, we'll spend a bit of time discussing the high-level core concepts of the LavaStorm Analytics Engine, and we'll do this by taking a look at a completed end-to-end model within the actual product itself. And this is really just a way for us to highlight some of the core fundamental product features and better orient you with what you're actually looking at on the screen in front of you. From there, we'll switch over into what's known as a blank slate demonstration and dive into the product at a much more detailed level. So in this case, we'll bring in data from several disparate data sources and actually build and configure a model on top of the data as we think through the individual business rules. And this really allows us to showcase the agile and iterative approach that the LavaStorm Analytics Engine facilitates. And then time permitting, we'll explore some additional real-world use cases and the associated completed models that really represent how our customers are using the product across the globe. What you see in front of you is the user interface, or IDE, to the LavaStorm Analytics Engine. And this is the same interface that analysts use to design, test, and execute models within the product itself. And regardless if you're using one of our desktop products, as I'm actually using today in front of you, or you're connecting to some sort of large-scale clustered server farm in a data center, this is the same user interface for interacting with LavaStorm models. So to provide a little bit of business context here, this is actually a financial trading operations model we built in a proof of concept that enabled one of the world's largest Forex trading firms for the first time to see how their trade transactions were flowing across a series of disconnected and often siloed systems and processes. And so the net benefit here is that for the first time, they were able to get this unified view of a single trade transaction across those various systems and processes. And so our visual development environment that you see in front of you allows you to construct analytic models the way you logically. And so the flow on the canvas actually mirrors the way you would document a business process in Visio or even on a whiteboard, except what's really going on here is that instead of some sort of abstract static representation of that business process, you actually have data flowing through the model from left to right with rules representing each step being applied to that underlying data. And so not only can you understand the logical flow of the model by simply looking at the visual representation of it and also the associated documentation that you capture at each step, but you can also inspect data at each point along the way. You'll notice that there are a series of text boxes along the top of the screen here. And these text boxes reflect our internal analytic methodology. And this is really a methodology that's been refined, over time through thousands of real-world engagements with our customers across the globe. It's completely visual in nature and really serves as a guide for our consultants as well as our sales engineers during engagements. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about the LavaStorm analytic methodology, let us know and we can set up a follow-up conversation. These end-to-end models are built out of the configuration and connection of what we call nodes. And simply put, a single node is an independent piece of functionality that applies some sort of logic to the underlying data at that particular step. So as the data flows from left to right, we see nodes that are doing something to the data. We see nodes here that are acquiring the data. We see nodes that are profiling, cleansing, and transforming the data. We see nodes that are blending or correlating our data sets. We see nodes that are performing further analysis on the data. And ultimately, we see nodes that are taking the results of our analysis and publishing them to something or to somewhere. These nodes are organized into logical groupings we call libraries into an area at the bottom of the screen referred to as the palette. Our product ships with over 130 nodes, and we are frequently releasing new nodes that can be easily downloaded directly from our website. Additionally, you as users have the capability to create your own libraries of nodes to share across your organization to enable reuse and consistency. We'll get into library nodes a bit later. To build models or even extend existing models, you drag and drop these nodes onto the canvas, connect them to existing nodes or the data streams associated with those nodes, do some light configuration specific to the node's type, and then press the play button to actually execute the node. When you execute a node, it's actually taking the logic contained within that node and applying it to the underlying data at that particular step. Additionally, every single node has a series of inputs and or outputs represented by these green circles you see here that we refer to as pins. And these pins are really the key enabler of that rapid development approach I mentioned earlier because they enable the user to inspect the data at any point along the model to ensure that the business logic being applied at that particular step is producing an accurate output or result. Double-clicking one of these pins will launch a data viewer, which is essentially a window into the data at that particular step in the model. And this data viewer is what allows our users to interact with the data in a very intuitive fashion to validate that the business rules being applied at that particular step are producing an accurate result, but also to ask questions about the data and even uncover business rules directly from the data that then can be implemented. And again, this ability to inspect the data at each point along the model in an intuitive fashion is one of the critical enablers of that agile iterative development process I keep talking about. These stacked box icons you see scattered throughout the model here are what we refer to as composite nodes. And composite nodes are really just visual containers of other nodes. So if we drill into this composite node, we see a series of other nodes doing something specific to the data. And we can go back up to the higher level view as well. So again, they become logical visual containers or a way to organize your model into logical groupings. This concludes the core concepts introductory demo, and at this point I'm now going to switch over into the blank slate demonstration where we will construct a model from the ground up.